What's up guys, welcome back to Fancy Goldfish Fanatics. Today is a two-part episode. We're going to be talking about whether your tank is for the goldfish or the tank is for you, and then I've got a special item, should we say, that I'm going to be adding to this tank that I've not seen anyone else do before. So make sure you watch it through to the end because this is going to be a bit of an interesting video. So make sure you stay tuned to find out more. Hey Fanatics family, welcome back. Check out our links in the description. Make sure you check out our sponsors, Jimmy Goldfish USA and Star Fisheries. Today we're going to be talking about whether the tank is for your goldfish or the tank is for yourself. And you may be thinking, that doesn't make much sense, but believe you and me, it will hopefully make sense by the time we get to the end of the video. And also, I'm going to be adding something to this tank that I've not seen anyone do before. I have no idea if it's going to work or not, but I do know that if it does work, it's going to look absolutely fantastic. So make sure you watch to the end of this video. So first of all, the first question you may be having is, what do you mean is the tank for your goldfish or is the tank for you? Well, as you can see in my tank, it is completely bare. There is absolutely nothing in it apart from some substrate. I even had someone tell me that this is just a glass coffin for the fish, which I thought was a bit hysterical as they clearly didn't understand much about what is actually going on within this tank. And they also didn't understand that I haven't actually finished this tank yet. It is a work in progress and a little bit of a project, which was a little bit humorous. As you can see, the tank is completely bare. We have our 3 Aranda currently, and they're doing absolutely great, absolutely phenomenally. You will know that they had some fry as well, so they must be really happy because they did spawn. Unfortunately, I did lose the fry. I had them for around a week and a half, I'd say, in total. They weren't taking up the egg yolk that I was feeding them, but I'll try and cover that in another video. I wasn't quite ready for them, but when we're ready next time, we can try again. But on to today's video. As I mentioned, the tank is completely bare. We just have the substrate and the fish. Now, this I would say is a tank for me. This is my personal liking, the way I like the look of the tank. The focus is just on the fish. Your eyes are drawn straight to the fish. There is no aquascape. There is nothing within the tank. There is no enrichment, etc. And there is also that debate whether goldfish need enrichment, whether they are happier or aren't happier, or whether it makes no difference having plants and aquascape, stones, rocks, etc., within the tank. But as you can see, the fish are absolutely happy. I'll even give them a little bit of food on camera. I just like to keep my food in these little seasoning jars. So we'll give them a bit of food on camera, hopefully keep them at the front of the tank for you guys. But as you can see, the tank doesn't have any structure in it. So I would say this tank is for me, the hobbyist. Really bare tank. There is nothing that the fish are going to be able to damage themselves on within this tank. It is super easy for me to keep clean, which means that I take more care in looking after the tank because it's easier for me to do my job, which means I do it more often. If you have jobs that are hard and tedious, take lots of time and are difficult, you're less likely going to do that. So by having the tank completely bare, it means I do regular water changes, means I can keep an eye on the fish, they don't damage themselves, they're not going to injure themselves, which means I can keep them in tip-top condition. However, there is the argument that they're not getting any enrichment, they have a poor quality of life because they're just living in a glass coffin or glass box, so to say. And there is that debate whether it's best to keep the fish in tip-top health or potentially risk them injuring themselves, but providing them with some more natural features like plants and stones and bits of wood and etc. Now obviously these fish here are not a natural fish. They are very, very far from it. So it begs the case whether are they a natural fish, so should they be kept in a more natural environment, or are they so genetically modified like a pug compared to a wolf that it does absolutely fine in an environment just like this one. And I'm on the fence about this. If I'm honest, I don't go either way. I think it's really good to have a really clean, bare tank so you can keep those fish in tip-top condition. but I do feel like they do appreciate that more naturalistic look with some plants. They can forage for food. It helps with the water quality. It can provide them with shelter, keep them away from any predators. If they feel uncomfortable in the tank, they can hide, give them places to hide. And I do feel like it does have a lot of positives to it and to their lives in general, and living a longer, healthier life. I believe in an ideal scenario, having fancy goldfish in a large pond, a large shallow pond, lots of plants, lots of mud, lots of gravel, lots of dirt at the bottom for them to sift around, looking for natural insects, bugs, looking around for food, and giving them lots of cover, lots of places and areas to spawn, lots of hiding spots. I feel like that will provide them with the best quality of life and give them the longest life. However, many fish may come into trouble. There may be obviously predators, natural predators. They may injure themselves, damage themselves, potentially die from breeding and hurting themselves and injuring themselves. So there is all of those pros and cons, but I believe personally, deep down, I believe that having a naturalistic style tank does provide a better quality of life for your fish. And now you may say, well, why is your tank completely bare? And I personally do like the bare minimalistic look. If I'm honest, maybe the fish aren't having the best quality of life, and maybe that's bad for me as a hobbyist. But that does lead me into the second part of this video. I never wanted the tank fully bare like this, as you can see it. Obviously we do have the bubble walls at the back of the tank, but that's not really providing any enrichment for the fish. It is providing good or improved water quality. I really like the minimalistic style aquariums that you may see in our Rate My Tank series. And I was thinking of different ways in which I could still maintain the clarity of the water, the high quality water quality, and make sure the fish don't damage themselves or get injured, because that is the priority with the tank. However, having the bare tank, it doesn't quite look right in my eyes personally, and I do like to see a little bit of structure in there, as I said previously, you would see in the Rate My Tank series. So I'm actually going to be adding something to this tank. Now, a few options I looked at was, one, there was a huge big Buddha head which was made of stone, made of concrete, which was absolutely huge, which would have sat in the tank and it would have looked absolutely phenomenal. Hopefully I put a little picture on the screen up of it, but I really like this. I thought once it's got a bit of algae on it, we've got some Bucephalandra, some Anubias planted all over it, it would look really mystical and ancient, and it would tie in with the oriental theme of the fish. However, that Buddha head was made of stone and concrete, and there was a high chance that lime could have leached out of it, and any toxic chemicals that were made in the process of it could have leached out of it, and I didn't want to take that chance with these fish and any other fish that I am adding in the future. So unfortunately that was crossed off the list. The next option was, as you may see on quite a lot of hobbyist aquariums, are large boulders with some large Anubias or Java fern, which adds some nice foliage to the tank, is easy to keep clean, creates a sort of minimalistic scape around the tank, but provides a little bit of an enrichment and something to look at apart from the fish in the tank. It doesn't take away too much from the fishes, from looking at the fish, but it also adds a nice bit of colour, a little bit of different shapes throughout the tank. However, that's been done quite a lot, and I'm always looking for new and interesting ideas that I can change and do slightly differently. So that brought me on to another idea. And you may see online, I'll post a picture just up here, that you can get these little glass or plastic acrylic cups that stick onto the side of the glass, and you can plant plants into them. And I was thinking about placing them all over the back wall to create quite a nice, easy, as I said, easy to clean, aesthetically pleasing tank with some nice plants dotted all across the back wall. However, I was thinking when the goldfish potentially breed, or if they're chasing each other, or they're getting a bit boisterous, looking for food, they might just knock those off, knock any soil or any substrate out of them, strewn it all across the tank, and it might look a little bit dirty. Now, this brought me on to one final option. Now, this is the option I'm actually going to be doing today, and hopefully you are still watching the video. Hopefully it's not too boring for you, but this is the option that I'm going to be doing in today's video. Now, I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to bring it in front of me now. We can take a look at it, and hopefully you guys will be on board with this idea. And if it works, I think it's going to be looking absolutely phenomenal. So I'm going to head outside, grab what I'm going to be adding to this tank, and then let's talk a little bit more about setting it up, getting it ready for the tank, and then we're going to be actually installing it in today's video. So I'll catch you in a second, and fingers crossed this idea works.
A few moments later.
So here we have it. Here is my crazy idea. Hopefully you can see what I have in front of me. First of all, we've got a 10-litre packet of aquatic soil that is suitable for ponds and aquariums that has no toxic chemicals in it. Next up, we've got this really nice sort of like glazed pot. Really nice colour to it, some like blues and turquoise in it. And then we have, hopefully you can see, it is leaking a little bit. We have this, well, small pond lily. Now, you may be thinking, a pond lily. I've never seen anyone put a pond lily in an aquarium. Maybe there is a reason for that. But after doing some research, I could not find anyone that had a big pond lily within their fish tank. And I thought, that sounds like a good idea. It's contained within this pot, which is easy to move, so it's easy for me to keep the substrate clean. I can place the pot on the complete bottom of the tank, moving the substrate out of the way, so it means dirt and detritus can't collect underneath the pot. The water lily will be contained within this pot, and I'll have some large stones and gravel on top, which means the fish will not be able to uproot it, dig it up and cause a mess in the aquarium. It provides nice shade and shelter as it grows. The lily pads will grow throughout the tank, cover the surface of the water, provide shade, provide shelter, a spawning ground for the fish to spawn. They can swim through the lily. And I thought it would look really cool. Obviously, lilies look really nice from the top, but when you see that side view through pond windows, you can see the fish interacting with the lily, swimming through it. It provides them a little bit more of a naturalistic environment. Now, the main concern I have, well, one small concern is that the fish may try and dig it up, dig into it, or eat the lily pads themselves. And that is the risk I'm going to take. The lily was, I think it was £23. So if the lily dies, £23, not too much money to go to waste, and I think it's worth it just for making this video, because maybe it gives some of you some inspiration to do a similar thing if it works and if we can get this to successfully grow in the tank. So I think it's worth the risk. The other problem I potentially see is not having enough light above the tank. And now someone did tell me that lilies do need a lot of light. Obviously I have the light coming through the patio doors, I have the light coming through the window onto the tank, and then I have those two big reef aquarium lights above the system. The lily is going to be in the middle of the tank, so it's going to be getting light spread from both sides. So I've got my fingers crossed that it will be able to grow in this tank. As I said, if it doesn't, then it will be a nice experiment, and then I'll put some different aquarium plants probably within this. Nice and easy to keep clean, provides a nice central focal point for the tank and the fish, and I think it will look really nice. If I can get this lily to grow for 6 months, it should really fill out in this tank with the warm water as well. Another thing you may say is, well, lilies need a dormant period. They grow throughout the summer and then they have lots of dieback. Now that is definitely true, and one thing I will need to consider, if the lily starts to die back, then potentially I will have to move it into the outdoor ranchy pond, which will be cold over winter. But let's just see if we can get the lily to grow and survive in the tank first. That is the first main problem. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be completely rinsing out this terracotta fired pot. As it is a sort of clay pot, it has been fired and glazed, so I can't see anything leaching out of it. It has been sat in the rain at the garden centre for at least a year, because they've had loads of these pots and they were on sale. So I thought, I've been keeping an eye on them for a while because I was thinking of getting some for the garden. So I know these have been sitting out in the rain for about a year at least, maybe 2 years. So hopefully that's washed anything that's come off them in the firing process. I'm going to rinse it off. Then I'm going to get some gravel out of the garden, and I have lots of round stones that I'm going to put around this pot. So essentially what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop this lily up, and hopefully I'll do it on camera so you can see how I do it. Now this is trial and error. A lot of you may be in the comments saying this isn't going to work. But it's an experiment. I've never seen anyone do it before, so I might as well try it. What's the harm in trying it? If the lily doesn't survive, it doesn't survive. I think it's worth the risk because this could look absolutely stunning in the tank. So as I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the lily in this pot. I'm going to use this aquatic soil. I'm going to thick the soil out with a bit of gravel so it provides some nice areas for the roots to grow through. Then I'm going to cap it off with some round smooth stones, and then I'm going to put some of this black sand on top so it sort of blends in with the current substrate. I have so much sand in this tank already, and I still have another bag of this black sand outside, so I've got plenty of sand to use and to waste. So I'm going to try and do sort of 1 inch to 2 inches of sand on top to cap it all off so it looks nice and uniformed. And let's see how we get on. Hopefully this video is not too long and hopefully you guys are still watching. I'm going to do this now, get it all potted up, and then we'll add it to the aquarium, and then we'll see the final look and see if it looks good or doesn't. So I'll catch you in a bit, and I'm going to plant this now. So as you can see, now I have the pot outside on the garden table. I've also got that aquatic soil, and then I've got some gravel that, as you can see, I've got plenty of gravel in the garden. I'm just using that gravel to thicken out that potting mix, just to make sure the roots can grow throughout it and give it a little bit more space for the roots to get through that soil. Then, as you'll notice, I'm covering all of that topsoil with large stones. These stones are big, which means that the goldfish will not be able to move them, and it's going to hold all of that soil within the pot, because I don't want any of that soil escaping, because that will just really cloud up the tank. Then you can see I'm capping that off, as I mentioned, with some of the black sand, the same that I've got in the tank, and it was about a 1 inch cap on top, so if the goldfish do decide to rummage through it or look through it for any food, they shouldn't be able to get deep enough to get to those rocks underneath. So here you can see I'm adding that pot to the tank very slowly as the water is filling up, going through all of the cracks and crevices within that soil and that sand, and everything is kind of washing down into the bottom of the pot. You'll notice all of those air bubbles escaping, as that is all of the trapped air within the soil. And as I mentioned later in the video, the sand started to wash through and wash down into that substrate, which means I had to add, as you can see here, a lot more sand on top to fill it out and make sure those fish are not going to get deep or close to that soil. But overall, really happy with how it looks, hoping that those shoots and those new leaves are going to come through and grow throughout the tank up towards the light. And overall, I think it looks really nice. I'm really happy with the effect, and the potting actually went really well. So I'm really happy with how it went, and it all went to plan. There we have it. The new water lily is in its bowl, and I'm really happy with how it's turned out. It looks absolutely great. It makes the fish look absolutely tiny, because that is a really big planted bowl. I think it's about 43 centimeters in diameter, so it is a big bowl. But do bear in mind that this tank is 3 feet front to back, so it's about 90 centimeters front to back. So it's sitting nicely in the middle of the tank. Got it positioned exactly where I want it. You probably did see I had to add a little bit more sand over the top, because when I added it to the water, all of the water went into the sand and that substrate, and it just filled it up, and all of the sand kind of drained down into those gaps. So I did have to add a bit more sand, but I'm really happy with how it's gone. Obviously, the fish haven't started rooting around in it yet, so I've still got that to potentially come, but overall, I'm super happy with how it looks. I've got my fingers crossed that the lily can survive under the lights, that there is enough light for the lily, and I've also got my fingers crossed that the fish do not eat these plants. So if both of those things go to plan, then I think this is going to look absolutely tremendous. And as those plants come up, they spread, the lily pads spread onto the surface of the water, I think it's just going to look absolutely stunning. So fingers crossed it turns out well. Hopefully it'll be a nice bit of enrichment for the fish as well, and provide them with a really nice home as well. So that is it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you've got any comments or queries, let me know down below. If you want to have your tank or setup featured on the channel as well, you can pop me an email down in the description, fancygoldfishfanatics@gmail.com, and check out the email. Send me an email. If you've got any questions, feel free to send me an email as well. And if you just want to have your tank or setup or your goldfish featured on the channel, we can put them into our Rate My Tank series or our Tank Tour series. So that is it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you've got any opinions whether goldfish should or shouldn't have an aquascape tank, or whether your goldfish tank is suited for yourself or your goldfish, then please let me know down in the comment section. As always, thank you all for watching. Remember to keep those water changes up and happy fish keeping.